What if we've been looking at how we learn to move completely backwards? What if instead of teaching a baby to crawl, we could just unlock that ability? Today, we're diving into a therapy that's built on that exact idea, that the blueprints for perfect movement are already inside all of us, just waiting for the right key.
Okay, so here's the game plan. First, we're going to talk about the body's hidden blueprints for movement. Then, we'll get into how we can unlock them and the science behind how it all works. We'll see what the therapy looks like in action, and finally, we'll take a really honest look at its impact and its limits.
All right, first up, the body's hidden blueprints. See, to really get the solution here, we have to totally reframe the problem. It's not about a person missing a skill, it's about unlocking potential that's already there.
So, think about this for a second. We usually imagine learning to walk is all about trial and error, right? A baby tries, falls, gets back up. But what if that's not the whole story? This therapy suggests that these incredibly complex movements are actually pre-programmed into our nervous system from the moment we're born.
And this really gets to the core of the problem for so many people. For someone with cerebral palsy or maybe someone recovering from a stroke, the brain's instructions for how to move aren't actually gone. They're just stuck. It's like they're caught in a massive neurological traffic jam, completely blocked off and inaccessible.
Okay, so if the movement patterns are just blocked, you gotta ask, right? Is there a key? Can we clear that traffic jam? And that question leads us straight to Professor Vojta and his incredible work back in the 1950s.
So the formal definition is a neuromotor facilitation technique. I know, it's a mouthful. But what it really means is that it uses the body's own reflexes to wake up those dormant, pre-programmed movement patterns, the ones that are stored deep inside our central nervous system.
And this, right here, was Vojta's big aha moment. He discovered that by applying pressure to very specific points on the body, he could trigger these complex, coordinated movements, like crawling, automatically. The patient didn't have to think about it. They didn't even have to try. Their body just did it. He had found the key.
So how in the world does this key actually turn the lock? Well, that brings us to the really cool part, the science of reflexes. This is the engine that makes the whole therapy go.
The entire therapy is basically built around activating two fundamental, built-in patterns of movement. Vojta called this whole concept reflex locomotion. And it all boils down to two things: reflex crawling and reflex rolling. Everything else stems from these two.
Let's take reflex crawling. The patient is just lying face down. The therapist stimulates some specific zones, and bam, the body just responds on its own. The arms and legs start working together, the trunk muscles fire up, the head lifts. It's literally the blueprint for crawling, just switched on like a light.
And it's the exact same idea with reflex rolling. By stimulating the right spots when someone's on their back or side, you trigger the precise muscle chain needed to roll over. Now, this isn't just about rolling. This is the foundation for core stability and the head control you absolutely need for sitting, standing, and eventually walking.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. How does this stimulation actually work? Well, a therapist applies this gentle but sustained pressure to what are called activation zones. You can think of them like master switches on a circuit board. Hitting one doesn't just cause a little muscle twitch, it triggers this coordinated, full-body response. The technique basically bypasses our conscious brain and talks directly to the central nervous system, helping to clear that neurological traffic jam we were talking about.
All right, the science is fascinating, for sure. But what does this actually look like for a patient, for a family? Let's move from the theory to what this therapy looks like in the real world.
The process really happens in 3 stages. First, there's a super detailed assessment to figure out exactly where the wires are getting crossed in the nervous system. Then comes the therapy itself, where the trained therapist applies that precise stimulation. But here's the thing, and this is absolutely critical. The third stage is repetition. This is not a once-a-week kind of deal. Parents are actually trained to do the exercises at home multiple times a day, every single day, to truly rewire the brain and make these patterns stick.
And because this therapy is working at such a fundamental level, right in the central nervous system, its applications are just incredibly broad. It's probably most famous for helping babies with developmental delays, but it's not just for kids. The very same principles are used to help adults retrain their brains after a stroke, manage conditions like MS, or even recover from spinal cord injuries.
Now, like with any medical approach, it's so important that we get a balanced view. It's not a magic wand. So for our final section, let's really evaluate Vojta's impact.
both the amazing strengths and the very real challenges.
And the upsides here, they're pretty huge. Because it works directly with the central nervous system, it helps create natural fluid movement, not just strengthening a single muscle. This means you can start super early, even with newborns, which can actually help prevent secondary problems down the road, like joint issues, and promote really balanced, symmetrical posture.
But, and this is a big but, it's not without its challenges. For one, the technique demands a highly skilled therapist. It has to be done just right. It can also be uncomfortable, and let's be honest, its success depends almost entirely on the family's commitment to those daily exercises. It's also not a quick fix. Results can take time to show up, and the scientific community is pretty clear that we still need more large-scale research.
So just to give you a little more context, here's a quick comparison to another well-known therapy called Bobath. And the key difference is right there in that control row. See how Vojta is all about triggering automatic, involuntary responses? Bobath, on the other hand, is about guiding the patient through voluntary, conscious movements. They're just two very different philosophies trying to get to a similar place.
So what's the real bottom line here? It all comes down to the power of early intervention. By tapping into these built-in patterns when the brain is at its most adaptable, Vojta therapy isn't just treating symptoms. The goal is to actually reorganize faulty motor control before it becomes permanent. It's all about harnessing the brain's incredible neuroplasticity to build a stronger foundation for a lifetime of movement. And that leaves us with this final, really powerful question to think about. If the blueprints for healthy movement really are already inside every single one of us, just waiting for the right key, by activating the body's own innate reflexes, how much human potential can we truly unlock?